Hi guys, I just wanted to share with you today a recent insight I had about my training and nutrition habits. As you kind of watched last Thursday's workout in the background. So I guess what I'll do is I'll give you kind of a Cliff Notes sketch of what this workout was first, and then I'll go into the topic. But I started out with clean and jerks. Which is what you see me doing now, and I worked up to actually 198 pounds, which is pretty good for me. And again, I don't measure myself against other people. I'm just measuring myself against the things that I've done in the past. So the last time I think I've clean and jerked 198 pounds was probably 2010, and I weighed about I think I weighed 228 when I did that, and on this particular day, I weighed 201. So that's pretty good for me, and so I'm happy with that. And so after that, I moved on to deadlifts, and then box squats, and then back extensions. So I might break back to the video to explain a couple of things as we go along. But onto this topic and this kind of revelation I've had about my own habits. And what's kind of interesting about this is that sometimes the reality of your behavior is really quite different from the external appearance. And what I mean by that is that if you were to just sort of look at me superficially and watch what I go through on a typical day. I'm in the gym pretty consistently, like 4 days a week, and those sessions go anywhere from like an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. This session you're watching now is actually about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And so, I'm working hard, and I've got training partners who push me, and I'm pretty strong, and I'm fairly lean, and all of those things. Nutritionally, I kind of watch my macros and actually, in many cases, weigh my food and all those things that seem very disciplined. But what's interesting, though, if you dig a little deeper, and this is just something that I've been kind of ruminating on for a while, is that typically throughout most of my lifting career, I have focused mostly on low repetition sets with heavy weights, and that's not necessarily an incorrect thing to do, but what is sort of suboptimal about that is that I really have neglected hypertrophy training over most of my career, and that's why I'm really stronger than what I look. And that's not a compliment, that's actually a critique of myself. It's great to be strong, but it's great to look like you lift as well, and you want to look the part. And so the reason that I think I have done this, and I think in the past I would have rationalized it, well, I'm more interested in what I can do than what I look like. Well, that's probably been true, but the other part of this that has not occurred to me until just very recently is that I think I'm not very good at delaying gratification. And I'll tell you why I came to that conclusion. If you think about it, going heavy in the gym and always pushing for like 1 rep max PRs kind of gives you an immediate gratification. So, even if I don't get a PR today, by working heavy for low repetitions, you are training the nervous system primarily, and nervous system adaptations are faster than tissue adaptations. So in other words, a lot of trainers who work with beginners will tell you that their clients get stronger before you see changes in their appearance. And so when you work with sets of 1, sets of 2, sets of 3, maybe going up to sets of 5, primarily the adaptation is getting stronger through better nervous system control. And so you get that kind of immediate gratification. But working on hypertrophy, for example, doing more volumes, higher repetitions, that sort of thing, you will not see those benefits until weeks or even months down the road. So you've got to kind of wait for that. And um, even if you look at things like mobility work, which I've not done very much of, at all, but particularly the last 5 years. And now that I'm kind of working toward this weightlifting competition, I am doing some mobility work, and I'm just after about 6 weeks of doing this, I'm starting to feel more stable and more comfortable when that bar is overhead. But it just occurred to me, one of the reasons that I don't do mobility work, or that I haven't done it, is because the benefits of it are not immediate. I mean, nobody posts a PR of them doing a stretch or anything like that. So there's nothing to brag about. There's that sounds so superficial and shallow, but there's nothing you can write on your checklist. Say, wow, I stretched today. So that's kind of how I'm wired, and in some ways that way of thinking helps me, but in other ways it doesn't help me. So the benefits of mobility work and various other things are down the road. They're not something that you can have fun with today. And even nutritionally, if you look at how I eat, I'm eating pretty much the proper number of calories. My macros are organized. But for example, I don't really get the fiber I should probably get in my diet. And you don't need that for good body composition. You need it for good long-term health. So that's just another example where, like, my nutrition looks disciplined, but in certain ways it's not. This, I believe, is the 198 clean and jerk. Yeah, I can tell by the sound of my feet there. So that was that. Was happy with that. So just going back to the lifting example here. It's not that unusual for me to do a heavy set of 8 or, a heavy set of 10. So what is unusual for me, and something I've been working on this month in particular, is doing multiple sets of 8 or 10 or 12. And that is something that I find kind of unsatisfying. If I do a set of 8 on the bench press with 185, let's say, I don't really want to do that again, because there's kind of no glory in it, right? I've already done it. So, I'm looking for the next thing. So typically, if I work up to, say, 185 for 8, I typically want to put more weight on that bar. Or in contrast, I might go down and do kind of like a burnout set or something. But to do multiple sets of whatever, 5 or 8 or 10, is something that I have not done a lot of. And I think to improve my body composition and hypertrophy, I need to do more of that. So in this case, I'm doing, I think I did 3 or 4 sets of 8 with 315 on the deadlift. And I'm not crushing myself. I mean, I've done 400 for 10. So they're actually harder than they look. They look pretty easy. But even on this day, where I walked into the gym saying, okay, I'm just going to do sets of 8, you'll see, actually, was that 225 on the bar? I'm not really sure. But you'll see that I actually ended up going up to 405 and taking a triple with 405, which I don't know if that's this. I don't know why all of a sudden I look like the camera frame is kind of screwy on this, but let's see what that is. Yeah, so this is actually 315 for 8. So I'm working reasonably hard, but not any huge big deal. But the reason that you need to do those sorts of sets and reps for hypertrophy development is because, training volume is the big stimulus for that. So people like Chad Waterbury have made the case that, well, you could do 10 sets of 3 and develop strength and hypertrophy at the same time. This is my 3 with 405. And you know what? That's absolutely true. You could actually take a heavy weight, and if you do, for example, 10 sets of 3, sure, that's 30 repetitions. That's pretty good volume. You could drive some hypertrophy with that. What I do find, though, in practice is that that approach is kind of not practical. That is exhausting. I mean, think about doing a heavy 10 sets of 3. That, if you're reasonably strong, like for me, if I was going to do 10 sets of 3, I don't even know what weight I would use on a squat, but 10 sets of 3 on a squat for me would be, I don't know, maybe 275. And I've got to warm up with 45, 95, 135, 185, 225. So that's 15 sets. I'm going to be probably, at least me, I'm going to be over an hour just doing that one exercise. Whereas if instead you did maybe 5 or 6 sets of 8, so if you did 5 sets of 8, that's 40 repetitions, which is more than the 30 you'd get doing 10 sets of 3. You'd have more volume, and the intensity is still sufficient, but that would take you significantly less time. So there's, of course, more than one way to skin a cat, but that's why when you look at bodybuilders and physique athletes, you tend to see an emphasis on doing multiple sets of 8 or 10 or sometimes 12, or with females, sometimes even things like 15s. So I have decided to devote this month to hypertrophy development. And let me see, Monday I bench pressed 5 sets of 8 with 185, and that's kind of a whole different ball game for me. And another thing that's worth mentioning is that it's kind of a leap of faith to do this, because when strength is important to you, when you do a month worth of these higher repetition sets with lighter weight, there is sort of the fear in the back of your mind that you'll get weaker. And the truth is, you know what? I think you probably will get weaker a little bit, but you are building a foundation, and then when you switch to a strength phase afterwards, you could potentially take that phase further than you could otherwise, because you have that foundation of more tissue. So anyway, so that's just kind of a more mature approach to the subject matter, and but it takes some discipline. So these are some high box squats. A few days ago, I actually published a video on quad activation using this segment of this video, and you might actually find that interesting, because I had kind of a revelation after talking to a colleague of mine, Christian Thibodeau, about the stretch shortening cycle and how that can influence what muscles get activated when you do certain exercises. So it's just a 4.5-minute video, but you might look for that on YouTube or on Breaking Muscle. I think you'd find that interesting. But all I'm trying to do here is think like a bodybuilder, and to kind of get those quads to wake up a little bit. That's kind of a long time challenge for me. Certainly I could use more weight here, but what I'm really trying to do is just, I'm not thinking like a power lifter when I do this exercise. When I was doing the clean and jerks earlier, I'm thinking like an Olympic lifter, which is what's the easiest way to lift that weight. When I went to deadlifts, I'm thinking like a power lifter, which is what's the easiest way to move that weight. Now on this exercise, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what's the hardest way to move this weight? I'm trying to kind of descend kind of slow, stay nice and upright, kind of pause and break that eccentric concentric chain on the bottom. So on this exercise, I'm trying to get into the mindset of not worrying about the weight, but worrying about activation of the target muscle, which, if I must say so myself, is a more mature way to kind of think about this. So I think I did 4 sets of 8 with 185 on that squat. This might be the 4th set. Kind of lost track as I was chatting. I am actually sitting down on that box and putting my weight down. I know that some people would have objections to that, and I don't think it's necessarily the right thing to do for all people. Certainly if you had an existing low back pathology, I probably wouldn't do it, and particularly if you're using a heavy weight. I'm not fully relaxing though. I mean, I'm keeping my core tight. I'm maintaining intra-abdominal pressure. But I'm just trying to take the tension off the legs on the bottom a little bit. Otherwise, my hamstrings just kind of totally take over there. Actually, I think this was my last set with 185. Yeah, it's a whole new sort of challenge for me to do higher reps. And I don't mean to say that I've never done them. It's not uncommon for me to do a set of 8 or 10 or 12. It's just uncommon for me to do multiple sets of them. And just focus on doing the work rather than setting records. And I think that is something that's a mistake that a lot of lifters make, and I have certainly made it. I'm just always kind of testing. You're always just trying to see what you can do, seeing how heavy you can go, and again, that will make you stronger as long as you do it safely, but in terms of developing tissue, maybe not the best approach. So 3 sets of back extensions here. That's a 120-pound dumbbell. And yeah, I'm working a strength here, but you know, these 3 sets might have taken me 8 minutes total. I think I mentioned before, I've got 3 training partners I work with, and we just go on a rotation. It's just I go, you go, he goes, and then when the 3rd guy goes, you're up, and everybody's staring at you, so it kind of makes you work faster. These guys in the background are all joking because the gym recently instated a rule that you can't bring a gym bag onto the floor. So one of my training partners, Ryan, put all his stuff in a big 5-gallon bucket and brought that into the gym as a way of getting around that rule. So in the background, they're having a discussion about how we could have an infomercial for that and start selling those online. The gym bucket. So anyway, if you found this topic interesting, I would love to hear your comments. If you've had similar observations about your own behavior in the gym, I would love to hear about that. And if you've not already, would love to have you over at Target Focus Fitness. And if you go over there, go ahead and subscribe to the blog so that we can let you know when we have new blog posts out. And aside from that, I will see you next time.
These things, we make you realize I'm tired.
Yeah.